Welcome to True Wellness with Dr. D, the podcast where we explore what it takes to live with vitality, balance, and purpose. I am Dr. D, and each week I'll bring you powerful tools, inspiring stories, and expert insights to help you thrive in every area of your life. From health and wellness to mindset and navigating life's challenges, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of true well-being. Be sure to check the show notes and grab your free copy of the True Wellness Checklist so you can get started on your journey to true wellness right away. Now, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome. So tell me, what if the future of healing isn't about managing disease, but about actually regenerating your body's own ability to repair, renew, regenerate? Well, in today's episode here, I am speaking with someone who left behind the traditional world of neuropsychology to explore what's possible when we stop suppressing symptoms and actually start speaking the body's native language, which is cellular communication. So we've got a lot of fun stuff to dive into today, you guys. We're gonna get a little bit more into biology, and we'll make sure that we walk through things nice, clearly, and succinctly for you. But welcome, Dr. Jeff Gross. We're super glad to have you today.
It's my pleasure. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So Dr. Jeff Gross is on the cutting edge. I mean, exosomes is something that you're probably not hearing in the mainstream on a regular basis. And most people are like, wait, what? What is that? And I'll tell you, and I didn't share with you this, Dr. Gross, but I have a client and her son has had some pretty traumatic issues. And I've been kind of hearing along the side about the journey that they're taking with their son as he's going through exosome treatment and the wonderful progress that he's making. So this is a completely appropriate conversation here. Dr. Jeff Gross, founder of Recelebrate and a pioneer in regenerative stem cell and exosome medicine. He's got decades of experience really transitioning from traditional neurosurgery to advanced cellular therapies. Dr. Gross is now one of the very few specialists in the country with access to activated natural killer, and we'll say what that means, right? Natural killer cell-derived exosomes and a breakthrough in cancer treatment and immune enhancement. So you have covered the gamut of the leading edge, I'd say, Dr. Gross, of what we need to know as we step into a very different future of health.
Well, thank you. Yes, I like to be at the tip of the spear of these things. And as long as we're pushing the envelope forward to help people and with less surgery, fewer pharmaceuticals, less invasion, and tapping back into what we're learning about biology and how we have repaired ourselves. And yes, that's what regenerative medicine is all about. So thank you for having me.
Yes, we're always talking about, I'm known for the True Wellness framework where we're looking at what are the underlying causes are and how do we not just like stick Band-Aids on everything, but how do we actually use your body's own innate intelligence to really heal? And what I know about exosomes is this is at the forefront of really working with the body's own natural systems to deal with some of the things, unfortunately, like cancer, right, that we're dealing with as a result of the world that we live in today. Right. So let's take a step back. What the heck is an exosome, right?
Right. Well, to understand an exosome, you have to think of a cell. So, we have billions of cells in our body. Some of them are static; they're hanging out. Some of them are dividing and renewing, and those cells are actively communicating with other cells. Some cells, for example, in glands, produce communication proteins or hormones that go throughout the body and work at a distant site in the body. Some work just locally, just the surrounding neighbor cells, like a neighborhood watch program. And they do that through secreting or giving off small proteins, peptides, and small bubbles. Now, I say bubble, I meant to keep it simple, but it's really a little bit of a membrane given off of the cell into a small bubble. And you're like, but Jeff, cells are small. Right. But the bubbles are 1,000 times smaller. And it's only more recently that we've come to understand these bubbles because we can really study these smaller items now. So these bubbles contain a little bit of growth factors, peptides, RNAs, and those are given off, and they're called extracellular vesicles. Mm-hmm. And those vesicles are given off, and another cell can take them in. It can absorb the membrane, and the contents get delivered cell to cell. It doesn't get lost in the space in between the cells or in the bloodstream. It's cell to cell, and it influences what that new cell or that recipient cell is doing. So if one cell is under attack by infection, it could warn its neighbor cells, "Hey, gear up for it's coming. Turn up your defenses."
Yes.
And that those vesicles, a cell can give off thousands a day. Those vesicles, for short, are called exosomes. Exo meaning out of the cell, mm-hmm. Somes meaning body or small body, a body of material, and it's how cells communicate. And we are learning more about those. So when you hear exosomes out there, if you go to your web browser and Google exosomes, which you really should after this, you really are finding out about therapeutic exosomes. And these are generally stem cell derived exosomes. So you think about, hey, I don't want exosomes from an infected cell or a cancer cell. I want the good stuff. And that's the cell programming from a stem cell to take our aged, affected cells from electromagnetic fields and stress and poor nutrition and stuff in our diet and water we shouldn't have had and stuff in the air we shouldn't be exposed to, microplastics and whatever else that are inflaming us. We want that fresh out of the womb, anti-inflammatory, optimal cell functioning, youthful, restorative message to influence our cells. That's what stem cell derived exosomes are all about. That's just exosome 101. Now you all got a PhD.
So basically we've got little parts within our cells that are real good friends of ours that can go out and communicate with the rest of the community to be on high alert and assist the community so that the community can thrive.
We've got good and bad signals.
Okay.
And if you are fostering a disease process, you're getting more of the bad signals, which are typically pro-inflammatory signals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's break down what a natural killer cell is, because what is that? It sounds terrible, natural killer cell, but it's actually really important, isn't it?
Right. So we're jumping. So let me bridge that for us so it makes sense here. So, we have been using in the clinic stem cell derived exosomes for so many things, helping people with joint problems or autoimmune or hyperinflamed states. We can use them by direct injection. We can use them by intravenous. There's intranasal spray. We've done breathing treatments. We use them for cosmetic purposes to help enhance the rejuvenation of skin or hair growth and thinning hair. And this is not by itself necessarily. It's usually in part of a whole package of wellness, right? And you've got to look at your diet and your sleep and your breathing and your mindfulness and your exposure to things to remove bad things and nutrition and all those things. So it's part of all that. When we use those very strategically, we've been doing that for many years and we're happy with that. However, what we didn't have until very recently was something we could do for people with cancer. Cancer is this horrible set of diseases. It's not one disease. And, many causes or contributors to cancer. But what we did notice was this. People with cancer tend to have a reduced number and reduced function of a particular white blood cell, an immune cell, called the NK cell or natural killer cell.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's cause and effect, but it's certainly an interesting correlation. What's wrong with these people that they're losing their natural killer cell function, and did that allow a tumor to flourish? So tap back into some other knowledge is that we make cancer cells throughout our life. We make accidental genetic mistakes. We have weird and abnormal cells, but our immune system can remove those accidents. And the cell that does that is the natural killer cell. So theoretically, if you have a lower number or they're not working as well, these natural killer cells, because our cells get exposed to the environment. Like you said, they don't work as well. They get exhausted. Then you have this increasing population of abnormal cells, enough that they can overwhelm the immune system and become a cancer. We see the same with aging, and cancer sort of are on the same sort of curves, on the same model. As we age, we accumulate something called senescent cells, or for cute, we call them zombie cells. Because you imagine the zombies, these abnormal cells, are taking up resources, but they're not contributing back to the health of the person. They're big, they're boggy, they leak bad peptides and proteins, they cause inflammation. And the more of those you have, the more effectively older you are from a biological perspective. Mm-hmm. So if you want to age faster, just get a bunch of these zombie cells in you. And a lot of things we do help clear out the zombie cells, like fasting, like exercise, like meditation, many other things, right? They help us clear those out. And how they do that is they improve our stem cell activity and our natural killer cell activity. So what if we could enhance the natural killer cell activity for people with cancer? And as you can tell from this conversation, I am a huge nerd, and I sit around thinking about these things, and I started doing some more research on this. And so there was a lot of homework, a lot of science on using natural killer cells to help address cancer, but it's very laborious. You have to take them out of the bloodstream, separate them, and they're only 1 or 2% of the white blood cells, which means they're less than 1% of the blood cells in total. So they're very hard. And then you have to get them to divide. Then you have to activate them with interleukins, which are cytokines that get them to produce their bullets. Okay. And their bullets are, guess what? Exosomes. So these natural killer cells make their own exosomes. Those exosomes do the work, just like in the stem cells. Stem cells don't do the work. Their exosomes do the work. So we're all here about stem cell therapies, but really it's the exosomes from those cells that are communicating with our cells, and our cells are doing the end job. So in the natural killer cell side, we can now, and it's very difficult to get these exosomes, these natural killer cell exosomes, because again, you have to go through this laborious process. But think about an off-the-shelf treatment that you could give someone to help repair or activate or encourage their natural killer cell function, to remove circulating cancer cells, to help fight cancer. And the research on this is amazing. All kinds of different tumor types have been tested. They have even taken the most malignant brain tumors. The one you've probably heard of is called glioblastoma, and it's the worst of the worst. And they took some of these glioblastoma cells, and they put them under the skin of mice, and they let them grow into a tumor, tenting up the skin of glioblastoma. So that mouse is going to die. I mean, that's a death sentence. They took NK cell exosomes and simply injected through the skin into the tumor and got them to shrink down.
Fascinating.
So why wouldn't we do this? It's natural. There are no known side effects, and it could be used separate from chemotherapy or radiation, or in addition to. It could be used to help support a remission. It could help prevent metastasis, a spread of a tumor to a distant part of the body, because they circulate in the bloodstream. It could help even in a high-risk patient, someone with a BRCA gene, or someone who's at risk because of a family history, who might want to do something a little extra active here. So we've been trying to get these forever. And early this year, we finally were able to get a very limited supply out of Europe, because they were only available in 2 places that had labs that could produce them at enough volume to make them, at a therapeutic level. And that's in Europe and in Asia, in China. China's got some great scientists who are doing crazy great things, but they're not right now. We're not sharing much. It's a little difficult. So we finally got some from Europe. I got a very limited supply, and we've been using them clinically here, because I think all doctors want to do good work, but man, there's nothing more satisfying than really helping someone with cancer. So that warms hopefully everybody's heart.
It does. I mean, tell us a little bit of what you're seeing in practice.
Yeah, well, we're seeing, patients, we're supporting their right to try these things, and we've been injecting solid tumors. We've been giving them intravenous and we have seen some reduction in tumors so far. We've only had this in our hands for about 6 months. So we're following these people very closely. And once we have enough data, we will publish on this. But this is one of the few places in the US, I think, that you can have, clinical application of NK cell exosomes off the shelf. So it's early, but if you follow the medical evidence in the scientific literature, this is a logical extension of that without problem. We have seen no side effects to speak of, except pain from the IV side or the injection site for a while. And this is all done very logically, and we go through all the options and alternatives, and we pair this with high dose vitamin C and exercise and all kinds of natural, approaches to cancer that we want. And some people still choose to do a more traditional approach, and that's great, and we can still support them.
Okay. So, I mean, this is something that, like we said before, is really on the cutting edge. And, I know we're talking about cancer, but, like I was saying, sharing before, my client is using it with her son, and that's not his category. So right. What else are we also using this for?
Well, on the NK, the natural killer exosome side, it's only two known applications are cancer and removal of senescent or infected cells. So if you had a parasite, you might use them, but there is good evidence. Rafael Gonzalez, PhD, published a few years back using natural killer cells. They didn't have the exosomes directly at that time, but of course, you give the cells, you get the exosomes from those cells. And they showed reduced senescent cell markers in patients for up to 2 years. So it's a age slowing proposition there biologically, right? So if you're a longevity enthusiast and you want to live long and even longer, it might be something you're open to trying. Otherwise, for a lot of the more, I'd say, run-of-the-mill things we address, like joint degeneration, osteoarthritis, and or inflammatory problems of the body in recovery from stroke, heart attack, brain injury, things like that. We usually use stem cell derived exosomes. They are much more abundantly available. They're less costly. And we have a larger body of literature and experience supporting that.
Yeah. That's been around for quite a while now. I know I have a lot of colleagues who use regular stem cell therapy.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Dr. D. I just wanted to remind you that you can get started on your true wellness journey. Go ahead and check the show notes and grab a link to the True Wellness Checklist. Now, let's get back to the episode.
I think it's been around for thousands and thousands of years, if not longer. And I'll tell you why. And this might bring things to some interesting conversation. But exosomes are found in bone marrow, bone broth, chicken stock, chicken soup, and those go back, in many cultures and even other animals you see eat bone marrow. They may not know why, but they eat it. Colostrum and milk produce exosomes, and all these cosmetic approaches, you see salmon sperm and all these things that are very high and rich in exosomes. The plants, fruits and vegetables also produce exosomes. And, it's almost sad because if you say, I'm going to go to my vitamin shop and I'm going to get a bunch of different phytonutrients. I want to take some quercetin and some fisetin, and I want to take a bunch of things because it's hard to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables all day that aren't ruined with pesticides. So if you went and got those, you're getting them from the plants, extracted out. It has to go into your body, digested into your bloodstream, and some gets into your cell. Well, would you know? Most of those are found in plant cell-derived exosomes, plant exosomes. And that exosome is nature's liposome. It delivers right into the cell. So why would you take it out of there to get it into the body? We should leave it in there. So fruits and vegetables are a great way to get exosomes that do interact with our cells and do survive our gastrointestinal digestion process. In fact, we have just launched last month a nutraceutical that is plant-derived exosomes. I'm not here to necessarily advertise for that, but it's exciting to us because it's from organic Italian fruits that we curated that have anti-aging properties. So this is a very highly concentrated way to get those phytonutrients into your cells without having to eat, bushels of fruit every day.
Yeah, because our food is less than it did before. So yeah, our needs are so much higher.
Right.
I've heard around the neighborhood, I've heard people talking about exosomes with respect to COVID and the spike protein. And I think there's new stuff that's happening around that. Can you speak to some of that?
Yeah. So
they're worried about long COVID. They're worried about the side effects if they've received the vaccine.
Yeah. And they should be. We should be. So the spike protein, the SV40 protein, is known to be very, very pro-inflammatory in our body, which is why that weapon was engineered that way. So it was meant to, enhance the body's formation of cancers and autoimmune problems and symptoms that have an inflammatory component. So regenerative medicine is one of the most anti-inflammatory things you can do because the stem cells and the stem cell-derived exosomes from the womb are the most natural cell reprogramming into an anti-inflammatory method you can have. So as part of we'll call it a spike protein sort of reduction protocol, intravenous exosomes would be an ideal inclusion, not by itself, but an inclusion. Yeah, they help because of their anti-inflammatory nature.
Mm-hmm. And are you seeing this clinically in your practice?
I am. Different applications. We have people with brain fog from COVID infections or vaccine or both. We don't always know what it is. So we've had some improvement there. We have people with persistent smell and taste loss. We've been able to help some of those people. We also do some intranasal spray of the exosomes because you can get them into the brain by getting them up into the back of the nasal cavity, up through what's called the cribriform plate, where the little smell nerves travel through. So there is a pathway there. There's also a nerve bundle in the back of the nasal cavity called a ganglion. And that ganglion is a great way to get some regenerative medicine into your nervous system. But exosomes will cross the blood-brain barrier because they're extra small. And stem cells typically do not. Although coming down the pike in the not too distant future are a subset of stem cells thought to be even more powerful that are smaller that may cross. And those are called muse cells. Muse like, a Greek, yes. A sprite that encourages other people to write poetry and things like that.
Right. So those are coming down the pike. They're not being used clinically at this time.
Not for the masses, but in certain research settings. But I've got my eyes on the radar all the time about protecting patients by trying to get these into our clinic to make them available to people who want to do something natural and alternative and cutting edge.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about, what inspired you to go down this path? I mean, you started in neurosurgery, right?
Yeah. Well, I would tell you my patients get most of the credit for that. I'm a big nerd. I was doing traditional neurosurgery and spine surgery. It became more and more dissatisfactory because the sick care system, the hospital nonsense, the politics, the mediocrity, the tail wagging the dog from doctors only doing what the insurance will pay for as opposed to what's best for patients. And that was not in conjunction with an oath I took, written by Hippocrates and his followers. So I had always been outside of that nonsense to the best I could. Mm-hmm. So my patients would come to me, and I did a lot of spine work. I have a spine fellowship, neck and back problems, disc issues, pinched nerves. And my patients would say, well, doc, we tried some therapies, we tried some injections, and I'm just not better. And I'd say, well, gosh, the only thing left on the menu then is surgery. And they'd say, well, whoa, I'm not quite that bad. I'm like, great, because I didn't want to have to offer it to you. I'm glad to hear that. And then they say, well, then what do I do? And I said, well, I really don't have anything in that gap for you. Just maybe try some more therapies. And they're like, doc, how about lasers? How about crystals? How about stem cells? Yes. And you hear it enough times. And chance favors the prepared mind, of course. So my undergraduate background is in molecular cell biology, which is the field that enhances and covers, those stem cell type things. And a lot of, changed since, a million years ago when I had that undergraduate training. I said, you know what? I'm a nerd. I'm going to go back and check it out. I stopped going to these, spine surgery, neurosurgery meeting with a bunch of bow tie wearing numbskulls, pat themselves on the back for doing the same thing year after year after year. And I didn't really fit into that. So I started going to stem cell conferences and I started retraining and re-educating. This was 8 years ago now. And I did it to add a new tool. But that has blossomed into now almost everything I do. I still see some spine consultations, second opinions. I see a lot of failed cases from other doctors and try to give people options. But most of what I do now is apply regenerative medicine, stem cells, stem cell-derived exosomes, natural killer cell exosomes, peptides, hormone optimization, biohacking, biotransformation, all these things for people to get them healthy and well with the least medical intervention that we can do. A lot of joints and spine, a lot of brain and inflammatory stuff and wellness and cancer, though, that's just a newer thing I've always wanted to help do more about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really incredible. I'm always fascinated by the human body, right? And I feel like what you're saying is, we've moved away from respecting the human body and kind of, I want to be careful what I say and how I say it here. It's not like I'm saying technological advances are bad, right? Like, there's a time and a place for everything, including pharmaceuticals, but we've just gone like head over heels straight into this, path of there's got to be a pill for every ill without having any respect for the body and the body's own ability to heal itself. And could we sometimes use assistance? Absolutely. Right. And then it sounds like this is a way that we can actually respect our own biology, respect the body's natural processes, right? We're giving it a little augmentation and assisting it, but we're not going against our biology like we might when we, do other things or take certain pharmaceuticals or things like that.
No, you defined it perfectly. And that's really the basis of regenerative medicine, is tapping back into that youthful healing that's natural that we've already been enjoying until we were exposed to too much pro-inflammatory worldly things and our body just can't heal like it used to when it was much younger. So we're just giving it a little juice of that. Dr. D, I don't know if you have children, but you ever notice how a pregnant woman has glowing skin and growing hair and their mood is typically good and they feel pretty superwomanish? They are getting a daily dose of stem cell derived exosomes through the placenta. That's a sample.
Yes.
That's a little example of what these types of things do for people.
Minus the morning sickness, right?
Minus the morning sickness, of course. Yeah, right. It's just the good stuff here. And it's I can't say I've experienced that, but I've seen other people heard about it. So, and then when we do IV, and I do them myself, my wife and I do them, my mother and my stepfather do them. So the IV on a regular basis, and hopefully we're doing them sort of as a prevention, slow the aging process. So you're slowing the disease forming process because those are the same.
Right. And I love what you said too, because it's not, what you said before too, is this is helpful. It's augmenting the process, but hey, you still got to eat your fruits and vegetables, man.
Yeah.
You still got to pay attention to what's coming into your environment, because if all we're doing is, chasing the stuff that's coming in. Eventually, the way I explain it, it's like the rain barrel, right? That rain barrel is filling up. Okay, so now you're eliminating some stuff, but if you're still filling up, you're not getting ahead.
Yeah, you got to start early and often.
Yeah.
If I can quote Ogden Nash. That's that. Yeah, the more you do and the earlier you start, the slower you will inflame, the slower you will age. You've probably heard the word inflammaging. The slower you will have that process going on in your body, and the longer you'll have a healthy life, a health span, and that's really great.
Yeah. Well, that's part of what's happening, right? I mean, I don't know. You hear mixed things. You hear that, well, this generation is not outliving their parents, but we also hear, our life expectancy is increasing, but the time that we have that we're actually functional is clearly decreasing, right? Most Americans will spend the last 10 years or so of their life having to have somebody else take care of them.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Well, life expectancies all came down in the post-COVID region because of all the deaths, because those tables include all people, sick people, healthy people, smokers, non-smokers, etc. So we haven't really had the kind of increases in life expectancy here over the last 10 or 20 years that we should have, like they have in really healthy countries, some European countries and other places. And we could have that. And I think the way to do it is first clean up our food supply, get the chemicals and the additives out, reduce the pesticides, and probably cut way back on gluten, and carbs. We're not made to process carbs necessarily. It was a food of convenience thousands of years ago, and now it's really a food of convenience, right? I'll take a sandwich, please, to go, right? It's easy to take with you, or a pita or a taco or whatever. Yes. So, we're meant to eat protein, and so many people are not getting enough protein and good protein. So we could do another hour just on that.
Yes, yeah, we could go back and forth. There's lots of debate and controversy and all of that. But I've always said, Dr. Gross, that no matter how much there is in terms of eat this, don't eat that, eat this, don't eat that, and how there is some conflict within the literature, within the experts. Everyone does seem to agree that we've got to clean up our food supply. We've got to not bring in those processed foods. If you're confused about what to eat, you could just start simple by making sure it came somewhere from nature.
Yeah. It's the more whole food, the more real food that you have, that's a good start. And the more, organic, I should say, even though organic is a little bit of a marketing thing, because even organic fruits and vegetables have sometimes some element of pesticides and things.
Yeah. Let's I want to take a step back a little bit, because we've kind of touched on stem cell therapy and stuff as well. Can we just kind of differentiate for people? You hear stem cell therapy for your joints and things like that. Can you explain to our listeners what it is that means, in case they're not familiar?
Yeah, sure.
We have people who have, really bad knee issues or shoulder issues or things like that.
Yeah. So stem cells and exosomes sort of fall into the same general category here. Stem cells have been available much longer. Professional athletes would leave the US 20 years ago to go to Europe and get these things. We're just slow to the party here. But these therapies they're designed to put them into a place that's not able to heal like it should, usually because of some inflammatory degeneration, like a joint. So the process of joint degeneration, whether it comes from repetitive trauma like sports or work, or it comes from just, inflammation in life, or an old injury or maybe you had an old arthroscopic surgery that cleaned up a tear or something, but that does accelerate the degenerative process. What happens is you end up at your orthopedic surgeon's office and they say, well, when you're ready, we'll do a joint replacement, which is great. There's a role for that. But what if we didn't have to do as many? Because we do hundreds of thousands of these every year.
Right.
right? And what if we didn't need that many? Because, it's a big surgery. There's a recovery, there's pain, there are risks,
Mm-hmm.
So what if we could help reverse the inflammatory degeneration and even support the opposite of degeneration, regeneration in your knee? Well, we've demonstrated that. And I didn't invent this, right? The Europeans have been doing this a long time. I follow the work of orthopedic surgeon in France, who's probably one of the leaders, Dr. Herngu. And he demonstrated that if you inject the cells that make cartilage, called chondrocytes, that live in the bone edge, the old growth plate, the bone that made the joint in the first place years ago,
Right.
and supported it and kept it healthy and lubricated for many years until it couldn't. If you inject those areas, you get long-lasting benefits, and you take people who need a surgery to people who don't need a surgery. If you inject the cartilage, the joint, you generally do not get as good a result and as long as a result. So you see a lot of people are comfortable injecting the joint because it's easy. We don't inject the cartilage. Cartilage is like biological rubber. It really doesn't have a lot of cells. It's not very alive. We inject the very place that makes the cartilage to help regenerate. And we've shown before and afters MRIs where we've seen the cartilage thicken up by injecting the bone edge.
Right.
You're like, wait a minute, that sounds painful. Well, we do it with a little sedation in a surgery center, but it's just an injection. It's a one and done usually. And I probably am doing a growing number every month of these joints.
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more known that this is an available therapy. I know I have a lot of clients who, 10, 15 years ago wasn't even on the radar screen. And
Right.
it's, something now that comes up on a regular basis. So I want to just step back to what you said about regenerative medicine, because I think this is a buzzword that people hear, and maybe they do, but maybe they don't really understand what regenerative medicine truly is and what's the premise behind it.
Yeah, you explained it well earlier. It's tapping back into what we've learned about the process that creates us in the womb and helps us maintain and heal as younger people until it doesn't work as well. So we tap back into that knowledge to reapply it in later years when we need it. We need extra help. That's regenerative medicine. It includes platelet-rich plasma, or PRP. It includes stem cells. It includes exosomes. You augment that with peptides and hormone optimization and lifestyle management, hormesis, and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I love that. You'll have to define hormesis for everybody. I talk about hormesis all the time. I think it's the coolest word ever.
I do too. Hormesis means a little bit of stress on the body's cells to build resilience, to build better cells, like high intensity exercise, fasting, hot sauna, cold plunge, going to high altitude where there's less oxygen, things like that, or hormetic.
Yeah. So just to clarify for people, because I remember I was sitting in, I don't know, it was a cellular biology class at one point, and the professor's going on and on and on about hormesis. And I'm like, isn't that the coolest thing? Like we're kind of like tapping on the shoulder of our body, being like, hey, I'm going to just tick you off a little bit so that I spur on your ability to heal just a little bit more. And that's the way I see it.
We are adaptable, but you have to do it to get it. You have to do the work. Yeah.
Yeah. I know when my kids are coming in the house and they're, my daughter's home from college for the summer, and all of a sudden, she doesn't pay the bills. So the AC is like all the way up. And I'm like, kid, are you kidding me? It's freezing in here. Lower that down. Right. And they're always, but mom, it's so much more comfortable this way. And I'm like, no, we need that temperature variation. It's really good for us.
Yeah. And, we, like you probably too, we had grandparents from the Depression. So, the lights were always off unless you absolutely had to have them on, right? They were the most adaptable. They knew how to take a little stress. So we should, what's the adage, strong men make weak men. or something, or because we provide too much or something. There's a parable on the internet
Yes.
on this, and
Yes.
and you have to become strong again out of the need to become strong, and that requires doing the work.
Yeah. And I always tell people, stress it is a buzzword, right? And it can go either direction. So a little bit of stress in the body, like you said, just from exercise,
Yeah.
like that can actually do worlds of wonder for the body. But let's say, your adrenals are fatigued, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping, and then you go out and you run a 20-mile race, you're in trouble, right? That kind of stress is not the kind of stress that's
Right.
actually that's going to put you in a better position.
Yep. I agree. And I think the cheapest fix is really good exercise. I think exercise, great exercise, will help forgive a not great diet, and that was well proven in the tribe in Tanzania that was studied. I forgot the name of the tribe, but they watched these hunters, that have these thin physiques and good muscle, and sometimes when they had plenty of food, they didn't need to hunt. They sat around.
Yeah.
And they were no less healthy sitting around than they were because they had those bursts of exercise. And there was a lot more learned from the study. I'm just superficially giving you a taste of it, but if you really want to do a deep dive, check out that study.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I mean, if we just kind of take that and bring it towards where we are today, and we think about, the lifestyles that we live. So yeah, they're having those bursts of exercise, but most of us, we're sitting in front of a computer, or we're sitting in places. We rush home. Maybe we eat a good dinner, maybe not. And then we, sit in front of the TV or sit back with the phone and scroll again. And we're just not getting that. And so our body is, we're literally breaking down because we're not building back up.
Yeah, that's the worst thing you could do. So if you could do one thing, you don't want to spend any money, just go exercise. You could do that for free. Mm-hmm. You can, and it doesn't need to be hours a day. You can be very strategic about it. It has to be burst, high intensity. Your muscles release the best peptides. They're called myokines or exerkines. And those peptides help prevent against dementia, heart disease. They help maintain your muscle mass and your bone density in later years. Both are correlated with longevity. So if you can just do one thing, you get to pick one thing on your desert island, it would be the exercise.
Move your body. Well, even just for your lymphatic system, right? If we're just like sitting all day, it's not moving. It needs our movement. So right. I love that. So I always like to ask Dr. Gross, because you've kind of brought us into this space. I always ask, what are some of the key things that you recommend for people that are absolute, actionable items that they can begin to implement that will change the trajectory of their health? So exercise is one of them. What else do you recommend?
Respect your circadian rhythm. Eat in the day, sleep in the night. De-stress, have a nighttime ritual, clear out your screens, and really sleep. There are some supplements. I recommend a starter supplements for, reducing inflammation, reducing aging, like good probiotics, magnesium and melatonin at bedtime. Omega-3s, we should be getting at least 3 grams a day. Mm-hmm. If you want to have an omega-3 index like the Okinawans who live long, and we're not eating enough healthy fish, so you can get your omega-3s in different ways, usually supplements. Those are some of the bigger ones I like to do supplement wise. And again, if you struggle, you get home late from work and then you haven't eaten and it's 7:00 and it's getting dark, then shift up your starting time on eating. Mm-hmm. So your first meal could be lunch. You can still have a black coffee or something as long as it doesn't have any calories in it. And really it should be your first meal, and all your meals should be protein based. Yeah. You get enough carbs and fats and we need fats. So this low fat diet thing, I think we're done with, but you need real butter and real dairy. If you can tolerate dairy, you need some of the good fats in avocado oil and good olive oil and things like that. So protein. This whole idea of cereal for breakfast and donuts for breakfast is just wrong. And it's not, you look back at the history of the world, it's only in the last 100 years or so, or 150 years that's been done. And if you look at a French croissant from a boulangerie in Paris, you look at that, it is coats and coats of egg wash. So you're getting more protein and fats and arachidonic acid and things that here in America, you're getting a bunch of dough from gluten with pesticides on it and maybe a little egg wash on the top.
Right.
So it's very different in Europe. So eat like a European. They have protein with their breakfast, but make your breakfast at lunch. Anyway, those are probably some easy things you could do.
I love that. Yeah, I lived in Japan for a while, and breakfast was not your standard American breakfast. I mean, you'd have fresh fish or miso soup or things like that for breakfast. Things that most people they kind of turn their nose up, like, I'm not going to eat that for breakfast. Yeah. Well, why not?
They have it figured out, and they're healthier than we are generally.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that we need to know, Dr. Gross, about regenerative medicine, about the exosomes, about anything that we might have missed in this conversation?
Yeah, do your homework. If you've got an issue or a family member has an issue and your doctor doesn't offer it, even if after you've asked, hey, what about stem cells? What about this? And that was me 10 years ago, right? Get another opinion. Mm-hmm. And, I see patients from all over the globe now, but certainly from all over the States remotely. So through the magic of this type of televideo, we can talk to someone remotely, get an opinion from someone who has experience in regenerative medicine. It doesn't have to be me. There are lots of me in the country now. I'm not the only one. See what the options are so you can make a fully informed decision. Because if your doctor does not offer you regenerative medicine as an option, you did not get a fully informed decision, and that violates what's called informed consent. So make sure you got to be a good consumer, especially in this space.
Yeah, I love that. And tell our audience a little bit more about where they can follow you, how they can learn more about your work, about your practice.
Yep. If you're an early riser, you can meet me at the gym at 6 a.m. You'll find me there. I'm either Pilates class or on the weights or doing something. But you can find us at Recelebrate, because we're celebrating the renewal of your cells. RECELLEBRATE. That's our website. That's our Instagram. That's our LinkedIn. That's our everything. I think we're the only people using that word. So
it's awesome. It's a really great play on words in, what was that, 3 different ways? That's beautiful. That's
Thank you.
I love it. And we are going to have all that.
Credit my wife for that one. On one of our nightly walks, we mused that one. Yeah.
Go wife. Absolutely. And we'll have all of that in the show links for this podcast as well. So those of you who are listening, you want to connect to that, you want to just make sure you go to the show notes and it'll get in there. But Recelebrate is pretty darn cool. I love that. So thank you so much for being here with us today, for sharing your expertise. I'm so thankful that there are people like you who are out there who are on the cutting edge, right? Because we can't all learn everything all by ourselves all the time. So, we've got to really rely on the foundation of, like you said, like being informed of all the different things that are out there. And so I appreciate you being out there, and I look forward to hearing more about what's coming down the pike. It sounds like there's some new stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, well, we'll have to reconnect next year and see what we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dr. Gross, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. This is Dr. D reminding you to tune into your body, connect with what matters, and embrace the journey to true wellness. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to redefine their health. Be sure to grab a copy of the True Wellness Checklist right in the show notes. Let's keep redefining wellness and empowering change together. See you for the next episode. All right.